Conceptualization of culture. What is culture? Before taking this course, my definition of culture was one-dimensional and broad. I first believed culture to be solely about your origins and where you came from. I now know this is not the case. Throughout my time spent in this class, I now know what culture really is. Culture is what influences your actions. Your culture is what defines you as a person, what sets you apart from everyone else. Technically speaking, culture is a system of shared beliefs, values, customs, behaviors, and artifacts that the members of a society use to cope with their world and with one another, and that are transmitted from generation to generation through learning. Whether it be art, music, film, or writing, the culture of anything involves the collective effort of multiple sources and different mediums. In order to understand what culture is, you must first understand that culture is learned, shared, and symbolic. A person isn't born into their culture. Rather, a person is taught their culture from infancy to adulthood. Whether they are taught by their parents or absorb the culture through other means, culture is learned. Culture isn't instinctual. We as humans don't have to adopt a culture to survive. Instead, becoming a part of a culture is a process. Some cultures are more difficult to understand than others. However, anyone can be a part of any culture they want with the proper teaching. That being said, culture isn't just about families, roots, or what country your ancestors originated from. Culture is about becoming a part of a group that collectively believes in the same things and practices the same traditions. To become a part of a culture, one must first learn the inner workings. For example, say there's a family from the United States that decided to live in Mexico. They birth a child in Mexico and decide that they love Mexican culture so much that they decide to teach and raise their children like traditional Mexican parents do. This family speaks only Spanish, teaches their children about traditional Mexican dishes, and gives their daughter a quinceañera to ensure their child has fully adopted Mexican way of life. Although the child is not of Mexican descent, the child is still a part of Mexican culture because they grew up learning the Mexican way of life and will practice and teach this way of life to their children. Although more often than not, one's culture is defined by their nationality and bloodline. It isn't mandatory for someone to adopt the culture of their ancestors. For example, art culture can be adopted by anyone who is influenced by art. It doesn't matter what country you're from because art can be appreciated by all nationalities. Culture can be learned and adopted by whoever wishes to do so, but to guarantee that the culture lives on, it must be shared amongst the masses. In order to form a culture, you need followers. Similar to a group or organization, a culture must be composed of multiple people with the same beliefs, values, and customs. For example, art culture is the appreciation of works of art. In order for someone to be a part of art culture, they must view many different varieties of works of art to understand what they do and do not like. The only way for someone to understand the different styles and genres of art, art must first be shared with the public. In order to learn about culture, someone has to share the information with you first. If information isn't distributed to others, the culture will ultimately fizz out. Culture is shared throughout groups. An example of culture being shared through groups is a religious group named Jehovah's Witnesses. Although this is a religious group, it is also a culture in itself. Jehovah's Witnesses live different personal lifestyles that the average person does not. They don't celebrate birthdays or holidays and are obligated by the church to spread the word of Jehovah. Similar to how they spread the word about their religion, cultures follow the same path. Certain cultures share their information about their way of life through group meetings, protests, and social gatherings. The reason being so that they can gain more of a following and so that the community knows that they stand for something important to them. Almost symbolic in a way. But can culture be symbolic? The answer is yes. Cultures are symbolic for a group of people's way of life or lifestyles. Certain cultures symbolize themselves with certain colors, flags, songs, languages, and clothing. Cultures are symbolic of a group of people's way of life, whether they are representing a belief system, an art form, customs, or values. Cultures are all symbolic of something one way or another. Some cultures are also use symbols within their cultures for communicational and other purposes. For example, in the Navajo culture and other Native American cultures, cave paintings and other symbols were used to tell stories and symbolize who they were as a culture. The ability to physically be a symbol of Native American tradition while at the same time using symbols for communication shows how cultures can be diverse. Culture is symbolic of tradition and faith. People who are a part of a certain culture ritualistically practice their traditions, whether it be constantly looking at new artwork every week, downloading new music from your favorite music genre, or cooking your national dish every Friday night. Tradition and culture go hand in hand. My conceptualization of culture has been transformed after taking this course. Not only do I have a better understanding and perception of cultures, but also I now know what culture actually is. Culture can mean many things, but overall, culture is a group of people with the same values and beliefs that were adopted from someone, learned, and then applied through their daily lives. However, cultures differ from organized groups because they are symbolic of tradition, morals, and beliefs. In the words of Paulo Coelho, culture makes people understand each other better, and if they understand each other better in their soul, it is easier to overcome the economic and political barriers. They first have to understand that their neighbor is, in the end, just like them, with the same problems, the same questions. Thank you.